1. In developing a training curriculum on state notary laws, which instructional design principle best ensures the material aligns with adult learners' needs? A. Use of lengthy theoretical lectures. B. Emphasis on passive content delivery. C. Integration of real-world scenarios and case studies. D. Reliance on rote memorization techniques. 2. Which of the following is an example of unethical notary conduct? A. Refusing service based on valid lack of identification. B. Performing a notarization without the signer's physical presence. C. Charging the maximum state-authorized fee. D. Asking for identification even when personally knowing the signer. 3. When mentoring a newly commissioned notary, the best approach is to A. Assign them to work independently on day 1. B. Focus solely on procedural checklists. C. Provide guided opportunities and model ethical decision-making. D. Avoid discussing real ethical dilemmas to prevent confusion. 4. A notary is approached to notarize a will for an unconscious patient. Which best illustrates regulatory compliance? A. Notarize it based on witness testimony. B. Delay notarization until the signer regains capacity. C. Proceed only if a nurse is present. D. Accept a recorded voice message as confirmation. 5. Which evaluation strategy best measures a notary trainee's understanding of state law ethics? A. Multiple choice test on penalties. B. Performance-based simulation of notarization scenarios. C. Open book exam with unlimited time. D. Oral recitation of statutes. 6. In terms of adult learning theory, which method best engages notary students? A. Instructor-centered lecture. B. Passive reading assignments. C. Case-based discussion and peer learning. D. Timed essay writing. 7. A notary who uses confidential information for personal gain is in violation of A. Professional development requirements. B. Time logging protocols. C. Fiduciary duty and ethical obligations. D. Document formatting guidelines. 8. Which communication technique helps ensure signer comprehension during notarization? A. Speaking in legal jargon to reflect authority. B. Assuming understanding based on nodding. C. Using plain language and checking for feedback. D. Relying solely on printed instructions. 9. During clinical instruction for healthcare notarization, instructors should emphasize A. Document design. B. Biometric data collection. C. Recognition of patient consent and capacity. D. Notary seal placement rules only. 10. A mentoring program for notaries should avoid A. Establishing clear competency goals. B. Allowing ongoing access to resources. C. Encouraging compliance shortcuts. D. Regular progress reviews. 11. Which best represents a curriculum objective for notary misconduct prevention? A. Learning seal design preferences. B. Analyzing consequences of notarizing under duress. C. Rewriting statutory codes. D. Memorizing every notary case in history. 12. Which of the following is an acceptable notarial act? A. certifying a copy of a vital record without authorization. B. Acknowledging a signature on a document the signer didn't understand. C. Witnessing a signature with the signer present and consenting. D. Offering legal advice during the notarization. 13. Which communication style promotes ethical awareness and training? A. Hierarchical lecture. B. Rhetorical questioning. C. Collaborative discussion. D. Directive monologue. 14. In designing notary training, which adult learning principle is most critical? A. Learners are passive receivers. B. Relevance to personal goals and experiences. C. Use of hypothetical data only. D. Emphasis on authority of instructor. 15. An appropriate evaluation method for assessing notary skill and fraud detection is A. True-false quiz. B. Role play with staged fraudulent documents. C. Multiple choice definitions. D. Open-ended survey. 16. A notary falsely certifies a document's content. What is the most appropriate response under ethics guidelines? A. Inform the commission office and resign. B. Correct the document secretly. C. Destroy the record of the act. D. Deny it if investigated. 17. An effective mentor models which of the following behaviors? A. Overruling procedures for efficiency. B. Encouraging shortcuts to meet demand. C. Adherence to legal and ethical standards. D. Avoiding continuing education. 18. In creating curriculum for remote notarization, one must address A. Digital font formatting. B. How to notarize via email. C. Remote identity verification standards. D. Ignoring platform security. 19. A best practice to prevent coercion during notarization is A. Ask no questions unless directed. B. Assume silence means consent. C. Confirm willingness through direct verbal affirmation. D. Focus solely on document content. 20. A notary may ethically refuse service when A. The signer belongs to another religion. B. The document's content seems irrelevant. C. The signer lacks valid identification. D. The notary has a long line of clients. 21. During clinical role play, a student notary is unsure if the signer is under duress. The instructor should A. Tell the student to proceed anyway. B. Demonstrate how to document uncertainty. C. Model a scenario of pausing the notarization. D. Ignore it to avoid conflict. 22. Curriculum on ethical notarial conduct should include A. History of medieval seals. B. Strategies for document advertising. C. Analysis of real misconduct cases. D. Electronic device marketing. 23. A notary who notarizes for family members risks A. State commendation. B. Disciplinary action due to conflict of interest. C. Commission renewal bonuses. D. Increased clientele trust. 24. Which learning technique supports deeper retention of ethics principles? A. Visual aids of seal placement. B. Simulated ethical dilemmas. C. Copying state codes repeatedly. D. Watching unrelated training videos. 25. In a mentoring setting, feedback should be A. Vague and infrequent. B. Immediate, constructive, and specific. C. Given in writing only. D. Focused on personal characteristics. 26. To ensure regulatory compliance, a notary should always A. Ask clients to skip reading the document. B. Stamp every page regardless of need. C. Maintain an accurate and complete journal. D. Delegate signing duties to staff. 27. Adult learners benefit most from A. Graded pop quizzes. B. Autocratic lecture models. C. Problem-solving tasks with feedback. D. Compulsory rote learning. 28. Which is a common violation that leads to revocation of a notary's commission? A. Charging below state fee limits. B. Failing to renew a seal design. C. Performing notarizations without proper ID verification. D. Explaining document terms to signers. 29. When developing a notary ethics course, the instructional goal should be to A. Promote legal risk avoidance only. B. Offer quick certificate issuance. C. Instill values of integrity and accountability. D. Review paper formatting standards. 30. Which instructional approach is least effective for adult learners? A. Passive video watching. B. Interactive group problem solving. C. Facilitated reflection on ethical experiences. D. Peer-led case analysis. 31. A notary who charges beyond the state limit. A. May be praised for revenue generation. B. Is following entrepreneurial best practice. C. Commits an ethical and legal violation. D. Should notify the client's attorney. 32. An effective way to evaluate notary competence is A. Asking them to recite laws verbatim. B. Observing them perform a simulated notarization. C. Handing them a reading list. D. Surveying their clients. 33. A mentoring process in notary training should include A. Role modeling ethical standards. B. Encouraging rapid notarizations. C. Limiting questions to policy hours. D. Prioritizing document types over ethics. 34. In ethics instruction, the gray areas discussion is important because A. It highlights outdated practices. B. It simplifies every scenario. C. It prepares notaries for real-life complexity. D. It's required by all states. 35. A notary refuses service based on a person's ethnicity. This act is A. Permissible under state discretion. B. An ethical best practice. C. A form of unlawful discrimination. D. Acceptable if explained politely. 36. Which component is critical in evaluating learning outcomes for notary ethics? A. Instructor's popularity. B. Number of printed materials. C. Application of knowledge in practical settings. D. Page count of the curriculum. 37. When planning continuing education for notaries, developers should A. Use dense legalese to reinforce authority. B. Design with adult engagement principles. C. Avoid collaborative tools. D. Limit sessions to reading from manuals. 38. The most effective strategy for preventing notarial fraud is A. Using signature stamps. B. Ignoring out-of-state IDs. C. Verifying identity and willingness each time. D. Offering legal advice to clarify documents. 39. A trainer observes a student ignoring ID verification. The most ethical response is A. Praise the initiative. B. Ignore the lapse. C. Intervene and offer corrective coaching. D. Let peers handle the issue. 40. Which of the following best defines notary misconduct? A. Performing a notarization in poor lighting. B. Explaining where to sign. C. Certifying a signature never witnessed. D. Signing as both notary and client. 41. What is a key component of evaluating ethical decision-making in a notary training program? A. Completion time of assessments. B. Reflection on case studies involving moral ambiguity. C. Repetition of state codes verbatim. D. Number of notarizations completed during training. 42. In mentoring novice notaries, how should constructive feedback be delivered? A. Publicly, to motivate others. B. Only in writing for documentation. C. Immediately and privately with focus on behavior. D. Delayed until end-of-year review. 43. Which scenario best illustrates a breach of notarial duty? A. Confirming identity through a passport. B. Asking a signer to repeat their full name. C. Notarizing a blank document. D. Refusing a notarization due to incomplete form. 44. A notary adds personal commentary to a notarized affidavit. This act is A. Acceptable under free speech. B. Encouraged to clarify facts. C. A serious ethical violation. D. Required in complex cases. 45. Curriculum for notarial ethics should prioritize teaching A. How to process billing statements. B. Legal terminology definitions. C. Situational judgment in ambiguous cases. D. Office setup procedures. 46. Which is a red flag indicating potential signer coercion? A. The signer smiles frequently. B. The signer reads the document aloud. C. A third party answers all questions for the signer. D. The signer requests clarification. 47. A trainer uses visual diagrams and real-world cases to teach journal entries. This reflects A. Passive learning. B. Constructivist adult learning. C. Behaviorist theory. D. Memorization strategies. 48. A notary notarizes a document written in a language they cannot read. This is A. Acceptable with verbal consent. B. Permissible if the signer is bilingual. C. A violation unless the notary is competent in that language. D. Required if the signer insists. 49. Which method is most effective for assessing notary performance? A. Multiple choice ethics test. B. In-person simulation and observation. C. Survey of peers. D. Length of study sessions. 50. When creating continuing education content for experienced notaries, the curriculum should A. Avoid new laws to prevent confusion. B. Focus exclusively on federal regulations. C. Emphasize practical application and legislative updates. D. Prioritize handwriting improvement. 51. A mentoring session on preventing misconduct should include A. Complex legal citations only. B. Passive observation of other notaries. C. Discussion of real scenarios and ethical consequences. D. Encouragement to work alone to gain independence. 52. A notary refuses service to a person with a disability due to accessibility concerns. This action is A. Justified for time management. B. Ethical if explained courteously. C. Discriminatory and a potential violation of the ADA. D. Required by local policy. 53. During instruction, the facilitator should encourage questions about A. Political affiliations. B. Proper notarization and ethical dilemmas. C. Filing taxes. D. Non-notarial document drafting. 54. A critical outcome of mentoring is A. Immediate notarization speed. B. Copying mentor's seal use. C. Professional growth and ethical competence. D. Memorization of signing orders. 55. To promote engagement in ethics training, instructors should A. Limit participant interaction. B. Apply a one-size-fits-all script. C. Use interactive polling and scenario debates. D. Avoid controversial cases. 56. An effective curriculum module on misconduct prevention includes A. Fictional stories only. B. Penalty charts and application of statutes. C. Encouragement of minimal documentation. D. Repetitive seal placement exercises. 57. In a clinical setting, what behavior shows compliance with ethical practice? A. Rushing the signer due to time constraints. B. Witnessing a signature without verifying ID. C. Pausing a session when coercion is suspected. D. Encouraging the signer to ignore complex language. 58. Which practice fosters critical thinking among notary trainees? A. Filling in pre-written checklists. B. Debating potential misconduct scenarios. C. Memorizing regulations only. D. Avoiding peer collaboration. 59. A notary completes a certificate without the signer present. What should a mentor do? A. Ignore it unless reported. B. Encourage faster practices. C. Halt the act and offer immediate retraining. D. Congratulate their efficiency. 60. A legally compliant notarization must always A. Be witnessed by a supervisor. B. Include a typed signature. C. Be performed in the physical presence of the signer. D. Be completed within 24 hours of signing. 61. What is the best way to assess a notary's readiness to act ethically under pressure? A. Timed reading test. B. Role play with real-time ethical decisions. C. Matching vocabulary exercises. D. Crossword puzzles on notary terms. 62. What adult learning strategy works best for long-term knowledge retention in notary ethics? A. Interactive group problem solving. B. Instructor monologue. C. Open book final exams. D. Graded reading assignments. 63. A mentoring notary should model. A. Flexibility with ID requirements. B. Encouragement of third-party signers. C. Ethical rigor and thorough documentation. D. Reliance on prior experiences only. 64. An ethical notary always. A. Avoids checking identification for known friends. B. Prioritizes volume over accuracy. C. Verifies identity, consent, and awareness before proceeding. D. Performs remote notarizations without tech protocols. 65. A signer's ID appears expired. The notary should A. Accept it without question. B. Check state law to determine acceptability. C. Proceed if the document is urgent. D. Use their own judgment. 66. When designing a course for ethics in digital notarization, what should be emphasized? A. Aesthetic design of e-documents. B. Client engagement methods. C. Security, authentication, and remote presence verification. D. Keyboard shortcuts for speed. 67. In a group training, learners are most likely to absorb notary laws when A. Listening to uninterrupted lectures. B. Reading from legal databases. C. Solving cases involving real-world ethical breaches. D. Memorizing textbook chapters. 68. A notary fails to maintain a journal. This results in A. Enhanced productivity. B. Ethical and legal noncompliance. C. Streamlined notarizations. D. Better client relationships. 69. A new notary under supervision notarizes for a sibling. The mentor should A. Ignore if done properly. B. Report and review conflict of interest policies. C. Applaud the efficiency. D. Copy the entry into their own log. 70. For clinical practice in notary education, instructors should A. Simulate real notarization sessions with reflection. B. Emphasize lecture notes exclusively. C. Assign journal writing only. D. Avoid mock scenarios to reduce anxiety. 71. In adult learning theory, the principle of self-direction suggests A. Adults prefer spoon-fed information. B. Learners disengage from practice. C. Adults benefit from autonomy and reflection. D. Passive lectures improve confidence. 72. Ethical misconduct is more likely when A. Notaries are under pressure and lack guidance. B. Laws are clear and well enforced. C. Mentors are consistently involved. D. Journals are reviewed regularly. 73. A notary backdates a certificate. This is A. A common clerical practice. B. Encouraged in real estate. C. Fraudulent and punishable by law. D. A harmless time-saving method. 74. What helps ensure content validity in notary ethics assessment? A. Asking trivia questions. B. Testing unrelated knowledge. C. Aligning assessment tasks with legal duties. D. Grading on attendance. 75. A notary coaching session is most effective when A. Held after an ethics violation. B. Personalized and proactive. C. Focused on disciplinary action. D. Limited to lecture format. 76. In clinical instruction, the best tool to teach journal compliance is A. Flashcards. B. Guided practice with standardized templates. C. Peer comparison charts. D. Notary fiction reading. 77. A notary shares a client's private information. This is A. Ethical if they know the recipient. B. Acceptable in informal settings. C. A breach of confidentiality. D. Encouraged under freedom of speech. 78. Effective mentoring includes A. Encouraging risky decisions to build confidence. B. Modeling shortcuts for expediency. C. Establishing boundaries and legal limits. D. Discouraging questions about law. 79. A curriculum on notary misconduct should avoid A. State-specific regulations. B. Real-world examples. C. Encouragement of reflection. D. Obsolete or irrelevant practices. 80. To maintain impartiality, a notary must A. Agree to perform favor-based notarizations. B. Remain neutral and avoid conflicts of interest. C. Offer legal advice upon request. D. Decide based on emotional judgments. 81. Which of the following is considered notarial malpractice? A. Refusing service for a personal conflict. B. Verifying two forms of ID. C. Certifying a document without a signer's presence. D. Using blue ink. 82. A notary is pressured to notarize a document without ID. Their ethical obligation is to A. Comply under supervisor orders. B. Follow procedure and refuse. C. Write a note explaining the lack of ID. D. Proceed if a witness insists. 83. Adult learners retain notary information better when A. Learning objectives are made personal and practical. B. Abstract theory is emphasized. C. Testing replaces all discussion. D. Interaction is minimized. 84. A mentorship checklist should include A. Client satisfaction scores. B. Number of seals used. C. Adherence to law and reporting accuracy. D. Journal color schemes. 85. A notary refuses service based on the signer's criminal record. This is A. Acceptable judgment. B. Required by state law. C. Discriminatory unless law specifies otherwise. D. Part of risk management. 86. A signer asks the notary to explain the legal meaning of a paragraph. The notary should A. Explain the best they can. B. Refer to legal counsel. C. Proceed without explanation. D. Offer their own interpretation. 87. What communication technique is ideal for preventing misunderstanding during notarization? A. One-way explanation. B. Confirmation questions and repetition. C. Silence after instruction. D. Legal jargon without clarification. 88. In a continuing education class, learners benefit from A. Listing all notary terms alphabetically. B. Listening to a 2-hour legal monologue. C. Collaborative case analysis with facilitators. D. Watching fictional portrayals only. 89. An appropriate evaluation of notary ethics includes A. Timed memory tests. B. Document formatting drills. C. Scenario-based decision-making quizzes. D. Multiple choice on vocabulary alone. 90. A successful mentoring relationship fosters A. Independence and ethical accountability. B. Speed and notarization volume. C. Delegation of duties. D. Avoidance of compliance checks. 91. A curriculum design that supports ethical decision-making includes A. Strict memorization. B. Legal writing drills. C. Opportunities for real-world practice and reflection. D. Exclusive textbook focus. 92. A notary records a wrong date intentionally. This is A. Legal in some states. B. A clerical mistake. C. A criminal act of fraud. D. A technical correction. 93. A notary declines service because the signer has a speech impediment. This is A. A legitimate safety concern. B. An unlawful discriminatory action. C. Acceptable if the notary is unsure. D. Standard best practice. 94. One outcome of ethics-focused instruction is A. Speedier processing. B. Less documentation. C. Increased public trust. D. Simplified journal formats. 95. A notary performs multiple acts but only logs one. This is A. Efficient and acceptable. B. Encouraged by practice. C. Misconduct and noncompliance. D. A preferred method for bulk signing. Notary Public State Laws, Ethics, and Misconduct Prevention. The Notary Public State Laws, Ethics, and Misconduct Prevention Test is a professional assessment designed to evaluate a notary's knowledge and application of state-specific legal requirements, ethical standards, and practices that prevent misconduct. It focuses on critical areas such as identity verification, record-keeping, impartiality, and lawful notarization procedures. The test emphasizes the notary's duty to act with integrity, avoid conflicts of interest, and maintain public trust. It also assesses the ability to recognize and respond to unethical or illegal situations, with special attention to adult learning, communication, regulatory compliance, and professional accountability. This exam is essential for ensuring competent and ethical notarial conduct. Here are the top 5 beneficial uses of the sample exam. 1. Ensures legal compliance. The test verifies that notaries fully understand and adhere to state-specific laws, reducing the risk of invalid or unlawful notarizations. 2. Promotes ethical practice. It reinforces high ethical standards, helping notaries identify and avoid conflicts of interest, coercion, and fraudulent activities. 3. Prevents misconduct and liability. By emphasizing proper procedures and real-world scenarios, the test prepares notaries to avoid errors that can lead to personal or legal consequences, protecting both the notary and the public. 4. Supports professional development. It serves as a learning tool that enhances notaries' professional judgment and decision-making skills. 5. Improves public trust. The test helps ensure notaries act responsibly and with integrity, reinforcing public confidence in notarized documents.